Welcome back, guys, to another episode of SR Auto Group's YouTube channel. It's been probably a year since I did the last video, but this one's going to be a good one. I have our Veyron here, our 16.4 2008 Bugatti Veyron. I decided to do a full service here because Martin is probably one of the most capable guys to do it. I have all the parts, which I'm going to show you in the video. I'm going to show you the disassembling of the car. I'm going to show you the Haldex oil replacement. I'm going to show you the transmission oil replacement, the transmission pump replacement. We're doing a full major service on this car. Now, guys, it's not that I don't want to send the car to Bugatti to service. It's just that our closest Bugatti dealership is on the East Coast and we're on the West Coast. So sending it over there doesn't make sense. So basic service, I can get Martin to do it. He knows how to take all the panels off. We do have a service manual from Bugatti. So it's not exactly the most difficult to do. It is based on Volkswagen parts. So we're gonna start working on this car. We're gonna show you all the cool parts. Now, don't get it confused. Houston has done a very in-depth video of putting the car back together. The waterborne one. If you're looking to see how a Bugatti's completely disassembled and put back together, check out Houston's video at Royalty Exotic Cars. But for us, we're doing a full service on the 16.4, so let's get going. Okay, guys, so the first thing we had to do on the 16.4 is that we had to take the rear clamshell off to access all the little bits underneath, the coolant tanks, the hydraulic tanks, more coolant tanks, the air filters and what have you. So Martin undid the clamshell, as you'll see as we're going forward in the video. We lifted it off. Then he had to do the air intakes, the stainless air intakes. He unbolted them. We took the filters out of those. And then he had to get underneath the car. So for access right now, he took the passenger side rear wheel off and he took the fender liners out. So we would have access to this quarter panel because this is what we got to remove to get to the different filters and the actual oil pump, transmission oil pump. So we got to take that off. He's already taken off this little, I don't know what this is called, but this little body panel in here, the intake side. So we're going to slide this off. Also, underneath, he's taken all the panels off, the under panels, as you can see in the video as we're going along. I'm going to lift the car up and I'll show you what is done underneath. So guys, we're underneath the Veyron. Martin's already taken all the panels off other than the front lip and the side skirts, which he will do later on because I'm going to be refinishing them. So we're at the very front. We're looking at the final drive and the front diff. This is the Haldex, which is basically the clutch for the front diff. So all this has to be serviced. So anything that has these lines on them, you can see that somebody serviced them before and they just put it there to show that they've actually serviced it and actually torqued them. So all of these bolts are brand new. We had to buy them and replace them. Now, they have little O-rings on them that I guess you could replace if you really wanted to, but the Bugatti manual says you replace all these bolts and all these nuts, so that's exactly what we're gonna do. Now, if you look at my front lip here, it's a little bit worse for wear. I always drive this car in race mode or handling mode, as Bugatti calls it. I have a brand new one of these that's going to go on, but the new one's going to be exactly like this because I refuse to drive the car in regular mode up in the air. As we go down this way, so we have the engine oil that we got to change. Now the engine oil has 11 drain plugs. I'm sure you've heard this before, but you can count them. Well, I'll count some of them for you. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a couple back here. There's one over here, right there, right there. There's one over here somewhere in the same spot, right here. So a total of 11 oil drain plugs. Plus there's a, what was this one, Martin? This one over here?
There's gear oil.
Yeah, so this is the gear oil drain plug. So
every turbo.
yeah, so every single one has been marked and replaced by Martin. These are all brand new. Martin, where are the old ones? The old ones are somewhere around here. So I'll show you over here. Oh, here's the old ones that Martin has. So all of these were what was on the car. So this is, I'm guessing, the
the front diff, I'm guessing.
Heldex.
This is the Haldex.
All the small ones.
All the small ones are like the oil drain plugs and stuff like that, and these tiny ones are for like the oil filter, like here, or right here, the tranny oil filter, and so on and so forth. But as you can see, they're magnetic. That's pretty cool. But again, we could probably have just changed the O-rings, but as per Bugatti manual and as per Bugatti service, you replace all of them with brand new ones, and you tighten them to a certain torque. Do you remember the torque, Martin?
It's 4 Newton meters.
4 Newton meters
For the small ones.
and
then this one was 6.
so the bigger ones are 6. So they're all different torque specs. We have the Bugatti manual that we actually use for the perfect spec. This isn't a, like I said, I would usually send this car to Bugatti to do a service because I like it so much and I have no problem doing it. However, because it's so far away, we had to do it, but I refuse to cut any corners on this car, or any car for that matter. So we're replacing everything. Now, if you want to come with me, Kev, if you look over here, we have, here's the list of parts basically. So it was everything we bought. It was 28,000 Canadian just in parts. The most expensive parts being the gearbox oil pump, which was about 3,000 bucks Canadian. Again, for a major service, you're supposed to change that. Most people who do regular oil changes on Bugattis don't go to this extent, especially if they're doing it in their backyard, as they call them. So we're changing the accumulators, which are somewhere here. We're changing all the cabin filters. We're changing over. Here's the gearbox oil pump that I was talking about. So this is the $3,000 pump. Now, I don't think this is going to go bad, but because the car runs so fast and runs so hard, they recommend changing it. So that's what we're going to do. There's multiple filters. These are the accumulators, the pressure accumulators, so we got to change those. Again, not a lot of people change these all the time. They're about $1,000 each, but we're going to change them. So that's that. Then we got the special filters. This is a transmission filter, Martin? Yeah. So this is a transmission filter. He's already changed one of them underneath. There's one going to be behind that panel, right, Martin? Yeah. So there's this one that's going behind that panel. And then a whole bunch of screws, titanium bolts, all that. Again, most people would never replace these, but as per Bugatti full service, it has to be replaced. So look at these things. They're so beautiful. I don't even know where this goes, but it's just absolute beautiful. Like, it's the best thing I've ever seen. Anyway, so we have those. So Martin's going to be replacing all those. Martin, what are these heavier bolts? Let's see. What are these heavier bolts for? So this is somewhere in the manual. These are, I don't know, they look, I guess they're single-use bolts. But anyway, these were supposed to be replaced. We'll find out where it goes once we do. As we go along in the service manual of the Bugatti, we'll find out where this goes. But these have to be replaced as per, what's it called? And then O-ring after O-ring after O-ring after bolt after, what's it called? Like, this is where all the money goes. All these bolts were probably, I don't know, 50 bucks each, 100 bucks each, something like that. So all these are going to go into the car as we keep moving forward. So I'll keep you in the loop as we go into it. But our next thing, we're going to take that quarter panel off and show you what's behind the quarter panel of the Veyron. So as you can see, we're taking the rear clamshell off the Veyron first, and so we put a bunch of tape around it to make sure that when we lifted it, we didn't damage the spoiler, that we had to lower a bit and keep it in the mid position, just so we wouldn't damage any of the paintwork. Then Martin quickly moved to the intakes, and the intakes are not really difficult to take out. There's 3 bolts, and then the intake stainless cover basically clips forward, as Martin's going to show you right now. Once it clips forward, it opens up the whole housing for the intake. So underneath that, there's a hard plastic shroud that holds the basic intake. It looks like a Fram intake. Now here are the 3 bolts that Martin's taking out. Very simple stuff here, guys. Anybody with a set of tools, Torx tools, European tools, could really do this service as long as they had some sort of servicing area. But now this part's going to come off, and Martin's going to be taking off that hard plastic shell, and then he's going to move on to the underside of the car before he removes the filters later. Now, the underside of the car is something different. As you can see on this car right here, there's a lot of damage. Now, what's happened here is I don't like driving the car in the regular driving mode because the car sits too high, the spoiler's not up. So what I do is I always drive in handling mode. Handling mode is so low on this car that I keep destroying the front lip. It's not as bad as it seems, to be honest. I have a spare one and I get it refinished all the time. So every single time I do some sort of service, I just replace the front lip. Now, this front under tray that Martin's taking out with all the bolts, it has some active aero installed in it, which has some hydraulic things, as you can see on the left and the right. So that active aero piece is connected. He disconnected. It was a quick connect. As you can see, there's a bunch of dirt underneath, and you can see the batteries exposed in the front right there. These pieces you got to be very careful with. You could get them new if you really wanted to, but it's just a headache to get parts, especially from a company like Bugatti or a Koenigsegg, because they're all handmade, they're all slow production. Just a tough thing to do. Underneath the car, you can see a bunch of stuff we need to do. Control arms are dirty. Those brake boots look worse for wear. That's the battery that it shares with Volkswagen EOS. But other than that, it's everything we expected underneath there. Now, as he moves to the back has a whole bunch more screws with collars. So at Bugatti, you're not really supposed to use power tools. Now, as you can see, Martin always goes to his Makita tool with his Torx driver. Now, I'm very picky in things like this, but I feel that taking bolts out with a power tool is no problem as long as you put them back with your hand, because that's where the possibility of actually stripping a bolt or something of that sort occurs. Now, Martin's taking the last couple bolts out here on the back of the panel, and then there's, I think, a couple more he had left out. So he'll pull out these 2 panel bolts, and then the whole rear diffuser will fall out. Now, for us, when we took this rear diffuser out, we were surprised by a couple things. One, there was so much dirt inside the car. Now, Vancouver is the roads are somewhat dirty and what have you with our wet climate. But that happened, and then we found a couple oil leaks, which we'll address in the video. One was on the driver's side axle seal, and one was a oil pipe that had a faulty O-ring. But Martin took the panel off, and we were well on our way to get this car done. So guys, as we go along, I don't know what day it is in this project, maybe 2-3 days now that Martin's been working on the car. So Martin has finally had the chance to take the quarter panel off, as you saw us pulling it off, to get to this access part for the gearbox filters and the accumulators and the pump. So he had to take this access panel off right here on the passenger side of a North American Veyron. So the access panel was literally a nice thick piece of carbon fiber that just goes in there, came off, which exposes all this. So what we're changing here is, these are all filters. So the gearbox has 4 filters. There's one here, which is right here. So this filter, so from what I've found out, this is a $1,400 filter that goes right here. And then the one above it is the bigger one. So this is the filter that goes up top right here. Then we have a little guy, which is also $1,100, if you would believe, this little guy. And that guy goes into this part underneath the accumulators. And as I showed you previously, these accumulators, which are about $1,000 each, there's one here and one right behind it, so we have 2 of those. And then the big ticket item, which is the gearbox oil pump, which I don't know if you can see it, but it's behind this hose way back there.
Now you can actually see that this car is very well serviced because there's multiple lines of guys who've taken them out, retorqued them, and put the line on as per guidelines. So this car does have a full service history. I don't know if this gearbox pump's been changed because this is usually for a full service, not just a regular oil change. But because we're doing all of this, it makes sense to change all of it in one shot. Now, speaking about that, I know last time as we were talking, I didn't know the actual prices for some of these parts, and I didn't know what they were. So some interesting things Martin pointed out as we destroy our SF90. So these bolts, I still don't know what these ones are for. Martin, what did you tell me these ones are for?
Handbrake.
Handbrake caliper. So it's for this caliper underneath. There they are. You can actually see them. They're the blue ones there. So these ones were $250 each bolt. Then the smaller ones, which I'm guessing is also for the handbrake caliper. Yeah, so the smaller ones are actually $150 each, but that's not even expensive. The most expensive part, oh wait, sorry, and these big ones that we were talking about earlier, these are the caliper bolts, which literally just bolt straight up. So the reason you need caliper bolts in a full service is you're supposed to take the caliper off, take the handbrake off, take the rotor off, and actually weigh it to see if it's actually more or less than 5,963 grams. If it's more, you're good. If it's less, you got to replace the rotor. So that's why you have to buy these. These are $80 each as well. But even those don't sound so bad because these washers, so regular steel washers that I had to purchase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them were $58 each. Now, I know it's Bugatti and everything's crazy priced and whatever, but these look like just steel washers. I feel like I could buy these and resell them on eBay for even 10 bucks each and I'd be a millionaire. But anyway, long story short, that's what all the prices are. Martin's gonna get to this section now. We'll be taking more video of it when he's replacing it and we're replacing the pump. This is actually the really cool stuff, the inside stuff that you never see on a service. It's not just an oil change. So Martin's gonna get to it and then we'll continue on as he goes along. So I really wanted to show you an in-depth view of this specific area. So Martin decided to take the smallest filter out first. And these things have specific torques for Bugatti, but we believe this one was over tightened just a little. Martin had a bit of trouble getting it out, but he did get it out, and some oil did come out of it as it should, even though we've drained it completely. Martin decided, well, I think this is the real way to do it. He found a screw that actually threads into the filter. And as he threaded it into the filter, it loosened it up, and then he used, as you can see coming up, pliers to just pull the filter out slowly, and with the O-ring, with a little bit of excess oil, the first filter was out. Now remember guys, this was an $1,100 filter, so we weren't exactly doing this as fast as we could. We were trying to make sure we didn't screw anything up. So as Martin pulled it out, he took the screw out of the old one, put it in the new one. What he did is he put a little bit of oil on the O-ring of the filter. We kept the old oil filter in the parts bag just so we know for reference for next time we're doing the service. But as you can see, here he is taking some oil from the car itself, putting it on the O-ring for a good seal, and then he's gonna slide it right back in to the, I guess it's the pump, the accumulator housing over there. So he takes the screw out. In this next frame, he's going to basically just take the bolt, the cap, and he's going to have to change the O-ring. So this is the only bolt that we received that didn't have the actual O-ring. Actually, we didn't have to replace the whole bolt itself. It was just the O-ring, and as you can see, it has those lines again from the previous technicians who have worked on the car and then torqued the bolt and actually put their line on the thing. So Martin got the O-ring out, got the brand new O-ring from our parts bag, As you can see, brand new. It still needs a little bit of oil, in my opinion, and that's what Martin did. He put a little touch of the oil on it, and then right back into the car. So now, as he's putting it in, there's an actual torque spec to it. So we're lucky enough to have the Bugatti manual, the service manual. So he's gonna go get his trusty torque wrench. He's gonna use the smaller torque wrench that we use on smaller bolts, just so we have an absolute exact amount. So I think this specific bolt was 30 Newton meters. Now we can watch on the torque wrench what he sets it to. Yeah, it is 30 Newton meters, and he'll take that and give it the absolute perfect torque. The seal should be perfect, and there should be absolutely no issues as we go along in the future for leaks or what have you. Once he does this torque, he's going to quickly mark it, and then he's going to move to the other two filters beneath. Now, like I said, this part I'm showing you more in depth because honestly, I think the Bugatti service relies mostly on the transmission. Now, you got to remember when this car came out, a DSG transmission was the thing of the future. There was no DSG in a GTI. So in this case, they've over-engineered. The transmission has 4 filters. We just changed the one for the accumulator housing. Now we're changing the main one in the tank. And then right under that, we're going to be changing the secondary one in the tank. Now, Martin places the rag there because he's going to put the 2 screws in and literally pull out the housing cover. And then we're going to get to the first $1,400 filter that's behind that cover over there. Now, did we have to do all this? Yes, absolutely. If there's anything I would do in every oil change or on a Veyron, I would do a transmission filter change. Maybe not the pump, maybe not the accumulators, but all 4 filters and the oil change would have to be done. So Martin's going to pick those, he's going to pull them out, and then we're going to replace it right after he gets it out. So once Martin got the cover out, this filter was being a little bit stubborn. He had a tool that literally unlocks the filter. So it's a black tool, almost like a regular oil filter tool. So he put it on, as you can see right here. He unlocked it as best he could. I think he spun it counterclockwise. You saw it, I think, about a turn and a half. And then he used the 2 picks that he picked on the inside of the filters and then yanked it out. Now, again, just like the other one, a bunch of oil came out, but the tank is empty, so there was no matter there. And then as the filter came out, Martin again saved this filter, used the remnant oil that was in the housing to literally lubricate the new filter. And remember, this one was $1,400. He lubricated the new filter, and then he would have to spin it back in, as you see right here. So the housing is actually really a nice piece of kit. It's completely machined aluminum. Martin just pops the filter back in. He's gonna put the cover back on. Really simple stuff, guys. As long as you know your torque specs, as long as you don't over tighten, as long as you don't jam anything in, this is not a difficult task at all. So as you can see, Martin's using the micro torque wrench. I don't know the exact torque specs on these bolts off the top of my head. I believe they're around 30 Newton meters as well. So Martin does that. Then he moves on to the marking of it to prove that he has actually done the torquing. The marking is really handy for 2 reasons. One, the previous tech knows, the next tech knows that the previous tech has actually done his business correctly. And then the tech that's actually working on it, in this case Martin, knows that he's already torqued it, so he doesn't have to go and check his work over and over again. So after he does this, he does the same thing with the bottom filter. It's just a smaller filter. Now, I don't understand why it requires more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 for that matter, but it is what it is. It's what Bugatti requires,
and this is what we did. So again, Martin literally screws in, pulls the cover off with his hand. A little bit of oil running out, but the majority came out from the top. He screws in a little screw to pull the filter out, just like the top smaller filter, and then starts the replacement process. Now, he does the same thing. He torques them, he marks them, and then he's done. He moves on to the next one. Now, in our case, the next one is the more difficult, well, the most difficult of this whole project, and that was the accumulators and the pump up top. Now, unfortunately, in the video, you guys can't see very clearly what Martin had to do, but as per the Bugatti manual, for the accumulators, because there's pressure built in them, you're supposed to release them. You're just basically supposed to crack them open. They just spin open, as you can see what Martin's doing. He had to use an oil filter wrench. He spun it open, cracked it open, left it overnight for all the pressure to release, and then he was able to undo them one by one. The front one in this case, and then he would move on to the one behind it. Now, I don't know what order Martin did it at because I wasn't exactly there, but in this case, I think what I would have done was remove the first accumulator, remove the second accumulator behind it, and as you can see to the left, that's the pump. So what I would have done is replace both accumulators and gone to the pump, which is exactly what he did. Now, the pump didn't have many plugs onto it. It was one electric plug, positive, negative, one AN filter, AN fitting, and one oil line, and two bolts holding it down onto that plate right there, as you can see. This was a simple process. Again, Martin took it to the bench. He looked at what was what. We had brand new screws for everything. In this case, there was two brand new nuts. Now, the old one, you could see the wires were frayed a little bit, so I guess the heat frayed it. So that is a good thing that we changed it, because once it cracked, it could have shorted, and having no pressure to the DSG system, the transmission, that would have been a big problem. Martin is now putting the new bolts onto the new filter, and as he does that, he's going to move right back to it and put it back. Again, this is, I'm sure it's worth $3,000, this pump, but if you really wanted to, check the part number and go look at it. I'm sure you could buy it for $600-700 somewhere else. But in this case, Martin is now opening some transmission fluid. He's going to prime the pump, I believe, a little bit. And then he's going to move on to reinstalling it. Now, do I need to do this? Probably not this service, because I believe my last service was pretty in-depth. However, I really wanted to get a ground zero for this Veyron. And what I mean by that is I wanted to know that everything was replaced by my hand so I could actually enjoy it. Now, for all you guys that think I don't drive my car, I actually have driven this car about 1,500 miles since I've gotten it. And usual Bugatti service is, I believe, 2,000 or 3,000 miles before you got to do an oil service. And then I don't know the exact interval for a major, but I just wanted to do it just for peace of mind. And with Martin, and we have all the books and the manuals, it's not a difficult task to complete. And I'm really happy that we actually did it. And the most exciting part, here we are, we're putting the actual pump back in. Really simple reinstall. It just slides back in the bracket. There's two nuts with two flat washers that slide down and lock it in place. It's all one single plug, one AN fitting, and a rubber hose with a couple clamps that plug it back in, and the pump itself is fastened securely in there. As you can see on the right, Martin put some tape over the accumulator holes so no debris would get into that. That's a mechanic's trick, and Martin is one of the best, so he literally has done that. You can see a little bit of oil dripping out of the pump itself. That's no matter, it's just the fresh stuff that Martin put in, but it gives you a clear view of how much work and how much care Martin took to get all this back where it needs to go.
So the last thing we had to do was we had to install the two accumulators, and the accumulators come with two brand new O-rings. Martin would actually lube it up as usual to create a nice solid fit. Now what the accumulator does is under gas pressure, it actually stores a volume of fluid, in this case transmission fluid, that could be refed into the system if the system needs it, if the pressure's too low, whatever. You never want to run any sort of hydraulic system like this dry. It could do a lot of damage, and in this case Bugatti decided they needed two of these accumulators for the DSG. Now it's common that you see these accumulators in S classes, you see them in my P1 has them, the Senna has them, every single one of these cars have them. Now they're all for different purposes. So for Bugatti it's for the transmission, for the P1 and the Senna it's for the pressure in the suspension system, but it is used everywhere. On Porsches they're used for clutch pressure, so it's a very integral part of all these cars. Now installing these two, they're both installed. We pretty much did everything we needed to do on this section of the car. So we are now at the phase where Martin has actually gone through this whole transmission filter and pump and accumulator section. So again, I showed you before, these are the accumulators. He just replaced both of them. There's one here and one right behind it. The transmission oil pump is there, which has to be also replaced on a major service. And I told you guys 4 filters. One goes in here, one goes in here, one goes in here, and one from the bottom. Now you can tell that Martin's done all of these because Martin has undone it, and his mark is the white mark. There's a yellow from somebody else, a red from somebody else, but our marks are the white ones. So you can see Martin put a white line on the new hose, white line on the transmission filter nut, and all these ones he's torqued, he put the white lines on them as well. So all that's complete. Now all that's left is that we need to put 18 liters of transmission fluid in the car. Now first you got to put in 13 liters, fire the car up, have the transmission pump everything around, get them in all the little corners, and then once you've done that, the total is 18 liters of oil. But the cool thing is, if you see here, this is where the transmission oil goes in, Kev, but you got to use a micron filter to put in the oil. So this is actually literally a Bugatti requirement, where you got to use a micron filter, either a body shop filter or a coffee filter or something like that. And we're using this Bugatti FFL2 Plus dual clutch transmission fluid, or Doppelkupplung Getriebel. That's what we're using. So 1 liter Bugatti oil, micron filter in here. So we got to put 13 of them in first, get it all mixed up and around, and then add 5 more to fill it up to the fill level, which Martin's going to do a little bit later on. Once we've done that, Martin's going to either attack the brakes, or he's going to probably do the actual oil service. But the major part was this area right here. The most expensive part is this area. The oil is expensive, the filters are crazy expensive, the pump is the most expensive item, and the accumulators. So Martin's done all that. We're pretty close to getting this Bugatti back on the road. I'll show you how it's poured in, or actually Martin will show you how it's poured in and checked as we go along today. But after that, we're gonna get to the brakes and the oil change. So now you're probably hoping that there's something exciting happening with this oil and this 190 micron filter from our body shop and what have you. But in fact, there was nothing exciting about this. The oil went in smooth. It was nice and thick. There was some bubbling left over in the filter. But other than that, there was nothing to write home about. Very simple oil install, 13 liters, and then Martin checked the fluid right after. So I'm looking at the right rear suspension, passenger side suspension in North America. And I don't know if you guys can notice how shiny the upper and lower control arms are all of a sudden. Now, I don't usually do this kind of stuff, but I love this car. So I got Kevin to grab one of our Roops polishers and see if he could bring back this chrome coating on the upper and lower control arms. And as I was looking at it, the rear caliper and the front caliper have a bunch of chips and damage and whatever. So now that we have all the proper bolts to remove this. I'm going to take these out and have them refinished. So we're going to do that. But let me show you how Kevin's actually polishing it. So he has the Roops small, you gonna give it to me, Kevin? He has the small Roops orbital polisher. It's called the Nano Bigfoot Hybrid. He's going to actually take it and polish the upper arm. I don't know if you can see it, Martin, up there. It's just unbelievable how easily the grime comes off if you use a little bit of like mother's polish or what have you on a regular pad. Kev, take away the polisher and just wipe it real quick just so they get an idea of... Not difficult at all. Takes a couple runs to go over, but look at the actual sheen back onto the Bugatti control arm. So that's got to be done on all 8 control arms. Again, the front caliper, Martin, if you want to come and see it right beside Kevin. You can see how it's actually all chipped off and it looks terrible here. So we're going to refinish that. Also, can you show them this, Martin? It's the front air duct, the orange air duct. So as you can see, guys, that's ripped, and I guess that happens from a lot of turning left and right. So I have another one from the other side that Martin already took out. So it's still in good shape, but with all these frayed threads and what have you, I want to change them. These aren't too expensive. I think they're about $400 each in Bugatti language. So about $800 for the pair. Good thing to change while we're here. Not a real big safety item. It's just to cool down the brakes. And we're not going that fast that it's going to need it. But something like this, I don't want it to be on my car. I want the car perfect. So anyway, so Kevin's going to do that. Martin's going to get on with changing a bumper or two. And we'll meet up on the whenever. Goodbye. So now that the rear bumper is off, Martin took it off, you can see a whole bunch of the exposed parts. There's an ECU here, I don't know what it's for, but that's sitting here. The rear rebar, a bunch of grounds. But something that I personally didn't know is I didn't know that this was a titanium exhaust on the Veyron. And the way you can tell is this is the center exit, that there's that chrome finisher on it, which I'll show you in a sec. But you can see the burnt titanium finish on the 2 outer tips of the exhaust. Now that we've taken the bumper off, you can see it much clearer. I'll show you the finisher that Kevin actually polished. So this is the polish finisher that goes inside the bumper. It looks brilliant. It looks really, really good. Polished. This is the actual tip. Didn't do much on the inside, but the outside looks absolutely great. So that, and then the rear bumper, which is over here. So the rear bumper is what, 3 pieces, I guess, and 2 for the inner, I guess the noise foam, cancellation foam. So what Martin's done, he's already pulled the bumper off. He said it was 6 or 7 bolts, quite easy. But he's also pulled off the rear diffuser off that bumper, which, as you can see, has the 2 exhaust tip holes right here. And what we're going to do, as I said earlier, is we're going to send this to any of our carbon fiber shops and have this refinished in a matte clear coat. So again, it's not going to be a dry carbon fiber, it's just going to be a matte clear, so it makes the carbon look matte. I've always liked matte carbon much more than I've liked this glossy stuff. So we're going to do that. There's a couple scratches here, as you can see, which they'll probably get out. The diffuser, where are these items? They're upstairs? Okay, so these are already been taken off. These are also going to have to be taken to the carbon shop. So these are basically the diffuser spats that come down. Those are also in gloss carbon, and I'm going to want those in matte carbon as well. So Martin's done a lot. He's going to pull off the front bumper next because we need to take the front lip off to do the same treatment. So Martin's going to get onto that, and then we'll get back on the video once he's done that. Guys, we've done so much on the Bugatti already, but this video is getting a little bit long. What we're going to do is we're going to stop right here, and next video, what we're going to do is we're going to get into putting the oil back in the car, putting all the drain plugs in, obviously, we're gonna pull the front bumper, pull the brakes, send them to Fast Track to get them refinished. We're gonna show you all the hardware that we need to change to do the brakes, maybe even weigh the rotors as per the Bugatti manual guidelines. We're gonna take the gloss carbon fiber to Fast Track, have them refinish it to the matte carbon fiber, start assembling it, and get this car on the road for the summer coming up. Guys, again, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if there's anything you like or you have questions about. Please comment below. If there's something you dislike, please comment below and I'll try and get to all the comments. Other than that, thank you for watching and we'll see you on the next one.